All right, POA board liaisons. Anybody have any comments? Okay, nothing. All right. Tom, you got anything?
Uh, On Monday, we had the rec committee meeting, and I gave a presentation updating the community about the gun range. And so if anybody has any interest, I encourage you to go online and watch that meeting. Other than that, nothing else to cover.
Rick?
So I have a few items. Just like to get this on the record every month that we're doing the Lake Norwood drawdown this fall, starting in November and completing it in March. I think it's November 4th to March 3rd. Again, residents have been contacted, and we will be doing some dredging at the back of that lake. It also gives homeowners the opportunity to repair and build docks if they so desire. It's a whole lot easier to do it when the lake is down. Our POA Rangers had a good month in August, 8,731 contacts, 417 individuals removed who were not members or guests of members. We had 850 boat contacts and 190 hours on the water in August. That is down a little bit more than 1,000 from July, which we anticipate that when kids go back to school. And in comparison to August of 2023, we were at 5,364 for that month, so still quite a bit more than the August of the previous year. I mentioned last month that we were dealing with an increased number of construction barges that were causing problems, getting in the way at boat ramps and courtesy docks, and staying not only overnight but for as much as a couple weeks at a time. We have sent certified letters to the owners of those construction barges, asking them to refrain from parking overnight, that parking at those courtesy docks should be for onloading and offloading materials only. And we also ask that they come by member services to get a complimentary registration for their boat, so that we can contact them individually in the future, so that doesn't get out of hand again.
So, question on that. If they're not parking at the docks, which I agree they shouldn't be, should they, like on Lake Windsor, for example, can they pull up to the dam and park near the dam and anchor there, or?
Well, okay, so if they're actively working, loading and unloading, and they are coming off to take a lunch or something, that's understandable. But what we were getting is these barges would stay in place, like contractors often do. They'll have multiple jobs going at one time. The barge will stay there for weeks sometimes.
Yep.
That hadn't been moved. So we're asking that if they need to keep a barge on the lake, which is, I can understand, they don't want to load up and every day, that the barge should stay tied up at the location where they're working,
Okay,
and then that they can come and go from that residence
that makes sense.
in their vehicles.
Makes total sense. That way they're not taking up any of the POA
Yes.
access. Okay,
Yes.
good.
Okay. Let's see. Grounds maintenance, we had no lake fertilization in the month of August. If you look at our online SECI data, we didn't require it. So we're saving a little bit of money there. Let's see. We're still removing a lot of trees. I heard you talking about trees from Loch Lomond, and also a few on Lake Avalon. Keep stringing in. We've had some equipment go down, and we haven't been able to do anything for a little over a week. But we hope to get our boat back by the end of this week and get back on it next week.
Rick, can I ask you a question on that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer to this. Possibly some other people don't too. If someone sees something floating around that's a hazard.
Report
that-
it to the Lake Ranger phone number,
Okay,
and that's the quickest way to get us out there.
okay.
And if we want to announce that number, I can look it up real quick. I should know it off the top of my head.
You should too, I think I have it too.
Can you have your pen?
It is 479-876-9581.
So anything hazardous in the water?
Anything hazardous,
Okay.
call that number. That's the quickest way. Someone should answer that phone till about 10 o'clock at night. And then if need be, we can get right to it.
Okay, second question, trees in the water, responsibility of the homeowner. What about an empty lot with no home?
So
Do we just leave
a
it?
POA common property, it's our responsibility to take care of that. When it comes to trees that originate on a homeowner's property, and it falls into the lake, I haven't found a tree company that has the ability to remove trees from the lake. So where it's in the lake, we'll take care of it. The portion that's up on the shoreline is the responsibility of the property owner.
Okay. So if it's kind of prohibiting a boat going into an adjacent lot, you'll come out and take care of some of the tree to where we
As
can
much as we can get. We have a barge with a winch, and most trees we can take care of. It may be that in order to get the entire thing, we would have to wait for a lake drawdown to be able to get in and do a good job of it.
Same number, Lake Ranger?
Yes, that's
Okay.
probably the best number to call. You can call my office number during the day, 855-5068.
Silly question. In some instances, if trees fall in the water, they might be good fish habitat. In some cases, if they're not obstructing a homeowner's lot or a dock or a waterway, would we choose to leave those in there?
We have. There is a really small cove on Lake Windsor that's got I think it still has a tree going across it. It's not blocking anything. And also on Windsor, a number of years ago, we had a tree come down that we cabled to the shoreline so it wouldn't move. It was on an undeveloped piece of property. So in rare instances, we do things like that. Smaller trees make good habitat. We can sink them. We try to stay away from larger trees because even if we can get them down, sometimes they pop up later and they can cause a pretty serious hazard. So. Okay, moving on. We do have our Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality permits to do wet dredging at London and at Granton. So we're going to do that as soon as we can pull the guys away from the gun range a little bit. So we're kind of competing with that. But we'll get those as soon as we can. And let's see.
Rick, is that the runoff at
It is.
London?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it fills up. DEQ would like to see us install a system to catch that material. It's really not feasible in that location. It's
Thanks
going
for
to be,
putting up a sign, by the way.
yeah. It's going to be continual maintenance on that.
Yeah,
Um,
'cause I know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And even Granton, it fills in pretty quick too.
It does. It does. Yeah. So, Trey would like me to report. He's not here today. He's attending a a class during this time, but he would like to report that CDOC should be open within 2 weeks. I asked him, I said, are they starting work at 2 weeks, or are they finishing work in 2 weeks? He said it should be finished in 2 weeks. And then ADOC, it's back open. They're pumping gas from the gas pumps there at the lake. So that's good. We can talk about the proposed boat show. I called, the gentleman's name escapes me right now, the fellow that spoke last month. He would like to do a boat show if he were given the ability to do so in April of next year on Loch Lomond in Granton. I informed him that the docks, not the courtesy dock by the ramp, but the docks on over by the kayak rack, the easy docks, the plastic docks, would be available. There are up to 8 spaces available there. He indicated with that, and I told him it's limited room there, and he said with that he would prefer to invite Bradford Marine, and Bradford Marine has got some sort of an agreement with Bass Pro Shops. They sell boats collaboratively somehow, and so he would ask that Bass Pro Shops could also be on hand, and they could conduct casting classes or any number of things. He suggested maybe snow cones for the kids, free snow cones for the kids. And then to respond to that, I indicated that our room there is very limited, and that parking may be of a concern. April is also a big time of the year for fishing. Anyway.
Plus it's wet.
It can be very wet. It was this year. So parking off onto the grass is really not an option either. So
thoughts from committee members on that proposal? Anybody have any? Sorry, thoughts from the committee members on that? I think Scott and I talked a couple of weeks ago about that. I kind of think I know where he's coming from, but you guys have any?
Well, my concern is, who's this going to be marketed to? Just POA members, or is it going to be for the general public? That's a primary concern of mine.
I had the same question.
it would be open to just POA members, unless someone can bring in a guest, just like you would any other.
We would probably promote it the same way we do the kayak demo day, which is internally with our email address, but we don't check guest passes, so we can't say for certainty it will be only members. It will be primarily members, but not only.
Well, my concern is not POA behavior, but the entities, Bradford Marine, Bass Pro Shops, are they going to be marketing it to the public? And Dave Adams as well. That was my concern, not what we were planning.
So I think that the first thing, we probably should back up. We're not, Rick was asked to do the research, so we're not advocating one way or the other. Okay, so that's first of all. If this is of interest, with the provision that they can only do marketing within Bella Vista, that would be a reasonable provision. So there's a variety of there's yes, no, and then there's yes, but you have to limit your. So I just want to open that possibility up.
Matt and I were talking, kind of one of the things I was thinking about, what's the benefit to the members, the POA? If I wanted to get a boat, I can go to any boat dealership and go test drive a boat. Try not to, we never want to discourage boat ownership, but do we necessarily need to encourage boat ownership? If you want to go get a boat, go get a boat. And we've all been on test drives on cars and stuff, and what happens on a test drive? How fast does this thing go? I mean, you really want to kind of run the boat around, and some of these new boats can get up 50, 60 miles an hour, and do we really need that zipping around the lake with bass fishermen or recreating or whatever? So that's just my thoughts.
And I kind of concurred with Scott. I mean, in theory, I don't have an objection to it, but at the same time, do we have residents clamoring to have a boat show here? I think the answer to that is no. And so why are we, I mean, we're allowing them to come in and use our facilities we're not necessarily getting any benefit other than if a resident did happen to buy a boat there. I guess it'd be more convenient to buy it there than it would be to drive to Rogers or Beaver Lake or somewhere else. But other than that, I don't, again, I'm not, in theory, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not that crazy about the idea either. So I wanted to get the committee's thoughts. And
so demand was something that I was thinking about, but is there a way to tie this with some other event that we have and just make it an addition to an event that we have instead of make it its own thing?
I guess the only other similar thing that I'm aware of that we allow is a kayak demo days. Could that be, we usually do that on a smaller lake because the, kayaks obviously want, quieter water and that sort of thing, but that's the only other thing that I'm thinking that we could tie in with if that was even possible. I don't know.
The different demographics and the I mean, if you have larger boats buzzing in and out of Granton, are you going to want to have your kayaks at that same location? Or are you saying that it even needs to be at the same location? Kayak demo days are always done in June. Mr. Adams was pretty set on trying to do it in the month of April.
Yeah, I recommend against combining. The kayak demo day works. They promote it to Bella Vista. We have seen a significant increase in the number of kayaks at about the same time that we started these demos. And kayaks have very limited impact on the lake when you add additional ones. I think what Rick and I talked about at last month's meeting was our concern about the membership being concerned about non-members coming in and so forth, and that's absolutely a valid concern. And I don't want to lie to the committee and say that we can completely control it, but there's no way we can control it. So.
The white plastic docks are kind of bouncy.
They are, yeah.
And for potentially older type folks or folks that, may be physically challenged.
That could be an issue as well.
Yeah, because I've fished them and they're bouncy.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? So I would suggest that we table this issue for the time being. I mean, if there's a clamoring from residents who really, really want this to take place, I think I would be more apt to entertain it. At this point, I don't sense that anybody's really.
Can you take a vote on that? And that way Rick can go back to the individual and definitively say, the committee said no, but you're welcome to present the idea again a year from now.
Okay. so does somebody want to make a motion along those lines?
I have one quick question. Would a survey be appropriate?
We really try not to do too many surveys. We absolutely can.
Throwing spaghetti to see what sticks.
I don't think, I'm not hearing anything positive at any of you guys. It's not, I'm going to echo Scott's point of view, is it's not like you can't go to a dealership or Beaver Lake to Destin. You know, if you're buying a brand new boat, that's a reasonable endeavor in your research. So one way or the other, whichever direction the committee wants to go, I would just recommend you vote. That way, Rick has been given clear directions that he can report back to the individual.
Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion? Go ahead.
A motion.
You want to be?
On the boat show.
Okay. I don't think your mic was on, Scott.
Okay. Forget to do that.
So do we have a motion to not allow the demo days on boats then, correct? I'm hearing you correctly? Do I get a second on that?
I'll second.
Second? All in favor?
All in favor of no?
Of the no vote? Yeah. Okay, any
No.
opposed? Is anybody opposed?
Sorry, I screwed up.
Okay, do we have any committee members online? Ross, you there? Okay, so the motion passes to not allow on the water boat show. Okay. All right, Rick,
And
I don't, go
thank
ahead.
you, Rick, for doing the research.
Yeah, thanks for doing that for us. Any updates on the fish habitat improvement, vegetation, that sort of thing? I always put that on the agenda because I know it's kind of top of mind for a lot of us.
Yeah, so we installed the little fence out on Loch Lomond, and I think we're going to do at least one more at Snake Island on Lake Windsor. And so we haven't seen anything growing in that area yet. The water has been extremely murky all summer, which is a good thing because that's a measure of the plankton in the water. However, the light penetration is needed to bring on vegetation. So we have 4 tanks that are actually meant for growing vegetation. We've had these for some time, and we are looking into artificially propagating some plants and transplanting them. It'll be something that we grow over the winter. We've got a set of lights. We need to get a couple more sets of grow lights. Understand grow lights are pretty easy to come by in Oklahoma for a totally different reason. But anyway, yeah. So we'll be doing that, and if we need to, we'll transplant. So
we'll have one of these devices in Loch Lomond, and then we'll put one in Windsor.
At least one more, and
Okay.
we might do a couple more in each lake.
Okay, in addition to continuing to try to remove grass, carp, and that sort of thing.
Yes, and we're ramping that up
Okay.
now that the recreation season is largely over, we'll be ramping that up again.
Okay. Comments or questions for Rick on this or any other topic?
There, I got my green light on. On the Norwood drawdown, when do you think that'll be down?
I'm about as confident about Norwood as I am on any of the lakes because it doesn't have the watershed that, so I'm pretty confident that we can get that down by about the 1st of December.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I'm asking is habitat,
Ready to
Yeah,
go with
cover.
habitat. Yeah,
and we're already starting to pull materials together on
Okay.
that for you.
good deal.
So I wanted to ask that question. The other thing I had was, the Bella Vista Bass Association had a tournament Saturday on Windsor, and there were 9 boats, which meant 18 fishermen. The information I'm getting is they harvested about 90 bass.
Okay.
Of those 90 bass, according to this email I received, only 2 or 3 of those bass were over 2 pounds. So we're still very much challenged in terms of growing bigger fish.
The answer to that, again, is harvest as many of those small ones as you can. I don't know what the tournament rules required, if it required that they be put back in the lake, but they should have been kept. I'm going to change things up a little bit in the monthly newsletter that goes out. I'm going to start publishing links to articles on professional papers that have been done on this kind of thing, and also fish recipes. So we really need to up the amount of harvest and the amount of consumption that's going on. Those small fish, the fish that are, you get beyond 16, 17 inches, and those fish need to go back to the lake, and and they need to go back healthy. And there's been a lot of research that shows that when you harvest, when you have a tournament that requires you to put the fish in the live well, and they bounce around for 6-7 hours before they get weighed, that puts a lot of stress on the fish, especially when the water temperature is above 80 degrees, which basically June to September. If there is a way to harvest, weigh or measure or whatever the metric needs to be, and immediately return the fish, that fish will be available for the next person to catch. And so that's also a big part of the equation and needs to be considered.
So Rick, I'm assuming that's been communicated to the tournament directors and.
It has been. The weigh-in is the big event. Everybody gets together, and that is a hard concept to try to overcome. The desire for this big suspense about who's going to win. When we were allowing the kayak fishing tournaments a few years ago, the thing that Jason Adams was doing, they do an online kind of a thing where they measure the fish and it goes back into the lake. I don't know if there's an opportunity for our tournaments to join something like that would allow it goes to a and this might be something for AI, but it goes to a committee that verifies the catch. And they actually had an incident where someone was cheating, and it was a picture of the same fish more than once, and they caught it. So you can cheat at anything, but the fact that they were able to catch someone is a feather in the cap of that system, and I think it's something worth pursuing. I'm not ready to recommend mandating something like that, but I would like to see the tournament organizers move in that direction or something similar. That would really help.
Yeah, because a lot of the big bass fishing organizations now are, catch, release, weigh, put the fish back in the water. So that's that's caught on pretty well. But you need somebody in the boat with you, and they have a very complicated system. But
yeah.
So hypothetically, I know there's been rumors running around that this year we're doing Norwood, but next year we might be doing Lowman I know there's been some people who have wanted to do that. So could that tie into this vegetation plan? If we did Loman next year, could we spruce up or speed up some of this vegetation growth by doing that?
Generally, a lake drawdown has the opposite effect.
Okay.
We would, however, if we, the drawdown is usually either 4 or 6 feet. When we do have vegetation, we have vegetation that's deeper than that. So it wouldn't wipe out everything. But we don't have any yet.
But if you didn't have any vegetation and you drew it down, that could help you put some more. I mean, you could maybe get some stuff growing there if we didn't have anything.
It's November to March though. It's
Yeah,
when nothing's
that's
growing
true.
anyway.
That's true. Okay, so that's really not an option.
Okay.
Any more questions for Rick on any topic before we move on?
The other option might be to use, if you're gonna propagate the growth of some grasses or vegetation, would be to use those Arkansas cubes, because those can act like a big salt and pepper shaker, basically.
Yeah, that would be the opportunity where that could be incorporated.
Okay.
Because that vegetation will grow in those cubes, and once they start to seed, those seeds will fall into the lake bed, and hopefully we'll get some growth. The other issue is we've got to get some forage fish. You know, we've got to put some cheeseburgers in the lake for some of these fish so they get big.
Yeah, well, so we're growing some bluegill in our ponds. We're gonna stock those. It's really not cost effective to add forage fish. You can easily spend $100,000 and you have increased forage for 6 months during the growing season. Once you go through another winter and then into the next spring, you're going to have to do it all over again. We did that with threadfin shad here about 12, 13 years ago. At the time, a load of those fish were $35,000. I'm sure it's more than that now. And
For how many fish?
it was a truckload. It was a lot of fish. I can look online to see that. If you go back to our stocking history in like 2012, something like that, is when
Is the record there?
should be, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they overwintered 1 year and then they died out. We are too far north to get consistent survival of that species. Which would be great if we had those, because they don't ever get too big to be consumed. The gizzard shad, which is what we have,
They get too big.
they get too big, and there's really no reason to stock small ones when we have large ones that spawn. They're just getting cropped off as quick as they reproduce. I really don't think that is money well spent to go down that road.
Could they be raised in the ponds, or is that not viable?
You're not gonna do it in the. You're not gonna move the needle. You're really not.
Why is that?
The fish that are already in the lake are producing hundreds, if not thousands of times more than what we can do in a small pond like that.
Just scale. So if you had a bigger.
It's a scale.
Yeah.
It's a scale problem.
And tilapia would open up a whole different can of worms. Right?
So bringing back the vegetation, which we're trying to do, and having said that, if we get another invasive species in the lake, we're probably going to go full nuclear on it again. So we really need to make sure that we are mindful of cleaning our boat trailers and that kind of thing. I've talked to the local water garden places that sell plants. We've got water gardens that are attached to the lake. People have these waterfalls that go down. People who discard their aquarium contents, they don't want to flush it down the toilet. They don't want to. They want their pets in their plants. They want them to live, so they end up in the lakes. It's quite common that things get started that way. But it's a real problem when we have to do what we just came through doing. But I still think that it's the best call because we get that particular weed going in one lake, and it's so easy to spread from one lake to another here. How many times have you fished more than one lake in the same day? A lot. Yeah. So we don't want to move that stuff around. So when we find it, we try to find it early and we take care of it. So unfortunately, it had to be Loch Lomond.
Before we open it up to the audience, any questions, comments for Rick or anything else that we've talked about today from anybody? Sir, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
Could you name and serial number and?
So I'm Paul Yates. I was speaking to Rick earlier in the week regarding Loch Lomond. And with the storms, we had quite a lot of damage on the lake to docks and seawalls, etc. And I know you guys broached that subject earlier, but lowering it next year instead of in 27, I was wondering if that would be an option or whether I could petition some of my neighbours to do it, or what would be involved in getting that moved up.
I mean, I think it's a possibility. It's just whether, based on what Rick's department wants to do, and if Lomond is our biggest lake and it has the most number of residents and it did sustain a lot of damage. So if we feel the priority is correct, we could potentially move that up if we wanted to and get it out of, it would change the schedule a little bit and delay some of the other lakes.
Yep.
But, we're gonna have to rely on Rick's decision and judgment on that for the most part, because if he feels like it could be done, not harm anything else, or we don't avoid a project somewhere else that needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Then that's something we definitely could consider.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We don't have any big POA projects that would be necessary on the other lakes at this time. So it is a possibility.
Okay, we'll probably make that decision in the fall of this year, of spring of next year, I'm sorry.
To do it next 25.
Yes. Yeah, because we've already picked Norwood for this year and we're kind of heading down that track, so.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Anything, any topic, any subject? Questions, comments, concerns? Going once, going twice? Meeting adjourned.